If you're looking at thinking of living in a city, it's a deeply disenfranchising or dehumanizing experience, right? You're one person among millions, especially in the kind of Indian cities that we have. And then when you move around in this kind of chaotic city, how do you get a sense of ownership and how do you know your community? A commons is basically community resource. But if you think of commons from the perspective of not official management, but who uses it and who can have some say in the management, then you can have urban commons of various kinds.
ನಾನು ಗ್ರಾಮೀಣ ಪ್ರದೇಶದಲ್ಲಿ ಹುಟ್ಟಿ ಬಂದವನಿಂದ ನಮ್ಮೂರಲ್ಲೂ ಕೂಡ ಒಂದು ಕೆರೆ ಇದೆ. ಸಂಜೆ ಟೈಮಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವೆಲ್ಲ ಚಿಕ್ಕ ಮಕ್ಕಳಾದಾಗ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಆಟ ಆಡ್ತಾಯಿದ್ವು. ಅಪ್ಪ ಅಮ್ಮ ಎಲ್ಲ ಬೈದಾಗ ಮನೆಗಳಿಗೆ ಬರ್ತಾಯಿದ್ವಿ ನಾವು.
MAPSAS is the trust that looks after this lake as well as another 3 lakes that almost amount to 200 acres of lakes in this area. We started out on Kaikondhalli. The first stage is the actual physical securing of the lake, which is what we did, and from 2008 onwards to about 2010 and 11. And then, water started coming in and it started looking like a lake.
பெருசாக்குது சின்னது பெருது எல்லாம் நிறையாக்குது மீன் 30 வருஷமாக இருந்து அவங்க வேலை பண்ணிக்கிறது. நான் 10 வருஷம் ஆகுது. இங்கே 3 வருஷமாக இருந்து இங்கே வேலை செய்யுது மீன் பிடிக்கிறது.
So around twice a week for the last 5 years I've been running here. It's about a 1.9 kilometer loop, so we do our speed workouts, tempo runs.
When you look at an urban common in the midst of an affluent area, normally what tends to happen, the middle class is very good at sort of using these kind of spaces for their recreation, for their professional advancement and things like that. Whereas most of the people who are dependent on commons for their livelihoods find it difficult to engage, probably because that's how the narrative is set. We are saying we're all stakeholders, all of us who live around here. We want people to take from the lake, but we also want all of us to give back to the lake.
Lakes like Kaikondhalli Lake and a number of other lakes are trying to work with the communities around them to see how they can help grazing communities, for instance, or fishing groups.
சாயங்காலம் 6 மணிக்கு 6-7 மணிக்கு வலை விடுறது, 5 மணிக்கு எடுக்கிறது. காலையில் 5 மணிக்கு பிடிக்கிறோம். 50 கிலோ 60 கிலோ ஏதோ சுமாராக கிட்டுது கூலி. ஏதோ செஞ்சால் மட்டும் எவ்வளோ கஷ்டப்படுறோமோ அவ்வளோ ಕಷ್ಟಪಡಾಕಟ್ಟಿ ஏதோ ಕೂಲಿ ಗಿಟ್ಟಿರದಿಲ್ಲ. ಕಷ್ಟಪಟ್ಟಾಕ ಕೂಲಿ ಗಿಟ್ಟದು ಇಲ್ಲನಾ ಇಲ್ಲ.
ವಾರಕ್ಕೆ ಒಂದು 4 ಸತಿ 3 ಸಲ ಬರ್ತೀವಿ ಮೇಡಮ್. ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಹುಲ್ಲು ಕಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ಎತ್ಕೊಂಡು ಹೋಗ್ತಾ ಇರ್ತೀವಿ ಕೆರೆ ಒಳಗಡೆ. ನಮ್ಮದು ಯಾವ ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್ ಇಲ್ಲ, ಹುಲ್ಲು ಕಟ್ ಮಾಡೋಕ್ಕೆ ಯಾರು ಪ್ರಾಬ್ಲಮ್ ಮಾಡಲ್ಲ.
ಇವಾಗ ಕರಿ ಎಲ್ಲ ಬಿಟ್ಟಾಕ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ಮೇಯ್ತದೆ. ಇನ್ನು ವಾರೆ ಕರೆಗೆ ಹೋಗ್ತಾ ಯಾವುದು ಮೇಯ್ದಲ್ಲ. ಈ ಕರೆ ಬಿಟ್ಟಾಕ ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಹೋಗೋದಕ್ಕೆ ನನಗೆ ಇದ್ದಿಲ್ಲ. ಅಪಾರ್ಟ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಆಯಿತು, ಎಲ್ಲ ಸುತ್ತಮುತ್ತ ಅಪಾರ್ಟ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಆಯಿತು. ಈ ಕರೆ ಬಿಟ್ಟ ಮೇಲೆ ನೀವು ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಹೋಗೋದಿಲ್ಲ, ಮನೆಯಲ್ಲೇ ಇರ್ತದೆ ಹಸು ಎಲ್ಲ.
When you had an apartment complex that came in and saw a polluted lake, the automatic assumption would be that the people who have been here before have spoiled the lake, we have come in to save the lake. And now I think they're very aware of the fact that there were villages around this place that they were the ones who created the lake and for centuries have been protecting it, and it's urban development because of apartments like theirs that actually have spoiled the lake.
ಮುಂಚೆ 15 ನಾನು ಇಷ್ಟು ಹುಡುಗನ ಬಂದ ಮೇಲೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಐತೆ ಈ ಕರೆ. ಆವಾಗಿಂದ ಹಸುಗಳನ್ನೆಲ್ಲ ಮೇಯ್ಕೊಂಡು ಬರ್ತದೆ. 7 ಹಸು ಬರ್ತದೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ. ಈ ಕಡೆ ಹಸು, ಬೆಳ್ಳಂಡೂರ್ಕ ಹಸು, ಕೈಕೊಂಡ್ರೆಲ್ಲ ಹಸು ಎಲ್ಲ ಈ ಕೈಗೆ ಬದು ನೆಲ್ಲಿ ಹೋಗೋದಿಲ್ಲ. ಇದೆಲ್ಲ ಆಯ್ತ ಮೇಲೆ ಯಾವುದು ಬರೋದಿಲ್ಲ.
ನಾವೆಲ್ಲ ಹುಟ್ಟು ಬೆಳೆದಿರೋದು ಆವತ್ತಿನಿಂಗ ನಮ್ಮ ತಾತನವ್ರ ಕಾಲನಿಂದ ಎಲ್ಲ ಹುಟ್ಟು ಬೆಳೆದಿದ್ದು ಇದು ಎಲ್ಲ ಈ ಕೆರೆ ಅಂತ ನಾವು ನಮ್ಮೂರ ಕೆರೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ತೀವಿ.
Most of the lakes in Bangalore have a school somewhere in the surroundings. And that's just the way they were set up, because they had some government land or some patch of land along the lakeside. And so if you look at the school, for instance, these kids, the way they know biodiversity, the way they know the trees, the way they know the lake, the opportunity this lake gives for urban education for a school that's right there. I still remember, I mean, we were doing a bird walk around the lake, and we saw this Brahmini kite swoop into the water, pick up a snake, take it wriggling in its beak and go off to the island to have its feast undisturbed. It was such a thrilling sight. I mean, it's one of those things you just cannot forget. And to think in the heart of the city, surrounded by all these apartments, surrounded by this noise and this chaos, you can have that feeling that you've seen nature. A lake of this size, you know, close to 45 acres, revived, thriving, more than 100 species of birds, all kinds of snakes and amphibians and insects that we don't even know about in this lake. I think it's beautiful. Pelicans have come back, which we weren't there for at least a decade before. The groundwater levels in this area just around the lake have increased. And fresh air, cooling the city, urban heat island effects. If you look at flooding, I think the flooding in this area would have been much worse last monsoon when it was very heavy if it wasn't for this lake and this entire chain of lakes that have been revived in this area. They've been cleaned up, the lakes and their wetlands have been restored, and therefore these lakes can hold a lot of water. The stormwater drains and the functional network and the lakes and the wetlands which can take the water, hold it and percolate it down into the soil. So not only did our groundwater increase, a lot of the surrounding areas were spared the devastation that comes with intense flooding. There's so much that this lake is doing for this neighborhood. So I'm hopeful still that, if number of groups start doing this and people can see that this is a different way to work towards lake conservation, that we'll get there. Well, there are a number of learnings I think one could take away from Kaikondeli Lake. So let's start breaking that up. One of the first would be just in terms of having a physical learning space. I think many lake communities, when they come in, they want to start rejuvenation. This is a knowledge hub. You don't know whom to contact, where to get the papers from, who is the government agency in charge of managing your lake. How do you come up with a plan? What is a detailed project report? How do they call for bids? All of these little technical things that we were clueless about. Now the trust serves as a knowledge hub. The second one is how to get people together. I think over time one learns that a place like this can be such a valuable learning resource. So the groups that have met here are now doing things like solid waste management, working with government schools, working on nutrition issues, working on road traffic, working on making areas pedestrian friendly, looking at air pollution issues, looking at citizen monitoring of water. The number of diverse things that are spread out from having one community place. And I think the third thing is the fact that in a city, you can't work without people and you can't work without the state.
When we're talking about being inclusive, it is the municipal bodies, the politicians, the local people who live around here, whether recreational, livelihood, whatever other uses, it's everybody. Because we can't and we should not take the approach that, the government is corrupt, so we shouldn't do anything with them, because then that doesn't lead us anywhere. And it's not true for a lot of the government officials as well. Or the government cannot look at us and say, these are apathetic people, they won't do anything, so we can do what we want, because that is not true as well. And I think that attitude we need to change, they need to change, everybody needs to change around to see if we can all work together to make something better.